All right, we're close. 1 minute.
Number 3, yesterday.
Congratulations,
Oh.
Grandpa.
No. Yeah, there we go.
Awesome.
Lewis, William Lewis. So there you have it.
Rosie went to a gas station this morning and they didn't have gas, I guess. And then she went home and she couldn't lift a gas can. I'm like, it's raining, you should just go back.
All right, I think we'll get started here. Appreciate everybody joining in for this will be our final regularly scheduled press conference. We will certainly be available to provide updates as they become necessary, but we felt like we're at a point now where the die has been cast. We all know what we need to do, and we'll talk about how that's going here today. Our local group here that you see up here, Kurt and Dr. Remington and Teresa and Carrie and myself and Bob Weaver will continue to meet weekly, continue to just follow the numbers locally, case numbers, look at testing numbers, and obviously trying to expand our vaccination opportunities. Those are things that we continue to look at and continue to do. That does not stop, and we want everyone to feel comfortable that we are continuing to work through this. But the need for these press conferences, I think, is finally, after over a year, I think it's safe to say we're all ready to move on, at least, and not have to sit up here and talk about the same things over and over again. I think we're to that point. So very much appreciate the time that everyone has given. I know it's a little bit of a sacrifice to break out of a busy schedule, but it's, I think, been very helpful for the community. I think there are a lot of folks I talk to that just turn this on and want to hear the update. They like our superstar, Dr. Remington, providing his calm demeanor and measured approach to this thing, and I think it's been very helpful for everyone to have that. So again, thank you all individually for all of your time and help with this. I think it's been very important. With that, I know that I'd mentioned vaccination opportunities. There are opportunities available for us to come out to those that are homebound. We're looking at continued now walk-ins to all of our vaccination clinics, I assume including the pharmacies and the health department. We're also in the process of developing more mobile clinics that potentially can serve industries or other organizations. We'll take our vaccinations on the road, again, to try and encourage and increase the number of those getting vaccinated. I know Dr. Remington will talk about the numbers and where we stand at a county right now. I will mention that we've had the opportunity to meet with several members of the CDC. They came to us and had some interest in how our vaccination efforts are going in areas that we felt we've done well at and areas that we maybe can continue to improve on. The general public's acceptance of vaccination, just a lot of good roundtable discussion. They're wanting to meet with a lot of different groups in the community to, again, kind of get a pulse. And we'll have a little time with them Friday to review their thoughts as well. So, and any comments you all have about that meeting, I think you were all in that meeting the other day as well. So that was a good meeting. So with that, I will pivot to Dr. Remington to start us off talking about everything, cases, vaccines, emerging, and continued discussion on vaccination.
You bet. Well, thank you, Mayor, for inviting the Health Department, and we're in deep gratitude for your organizational structure and provision of this venue regularly for a year. I think that's been really great to have it. Our first case in Kosciuszko County was March 26th, a year ago. Since then, 9,521 cases. We were at 9,400 2 weeks ago when we last met. 117 deaths, which is the same as 2 weeks ago. Again, condolences to those families. We are under a governor's blue advisory at this point, which is better than 2 weeks ago where we were yellow. We have a 7-day rolling positivity of 3.4%. At our worst in November, we were 26%, and 2 weeks ago, we were 3.7%. We average about 3 new cases daily per the state's dashboard. At our worst, we were seeing an average of 134 new cases a day in November. We were seeing about 6 new cases a day on average 2 weeks ago. So downward trend in all those things. Hospitalizations, a key indicator of real on-the-ground issues with this pandemic, are down. District 2, which is South Bend, District 3, Allen County, down. The whole state, down. The whole nation, down. In fact, cases down in the entire state and the entire nation. In the aggregate, we're looking more like we did in June a year ago. That's great news. These are durable trends since we last met. Pivoting to where we are with vaccine, the state of Indiana has put more than 5 million doses into arms. That is unprecedented, just so we don't forget that. I know we have never had a mass immunization campaign in the state of Indiana like this. 2.4 million Hoosiers are fully immunized as of yesterday. In Kosciuszko County, 22,000 plus have had a first dose, 22,000 plus now fully immunized. That's up 3,000 from 2 weeks ago in this county. That's all venues, any county resident. The percentages are a little different. 2 weeks ago, we talked about a percentage of the population 16 and over. Now, with the Pfizer vaccine down to 12 and older, they are now quoting our percent vaccinated as per 12 and older. So the metric's a little different. We're at about 34% first dose, 33% fully dosed, if you look at 12 and older in the county population. At the health department, our single venue, and then other things we've done through our health department with the vaccine. Since our first dose on January 11th this year, we've delivered 21,540 plus doses into arms. And I can tell you in Kosciuszko County, that is an unprecedented clinical effort for our health department. We have never done anything like that ever. At our past week, we're running at about 45% of our capacity at our singular immunization clinic. That's down from the mid-60s, I think it was, about 2 weeks ago. So there just is waning interest. Emerging topics, variants growing in prominence as we anticipated. About 50% of samples where they go looking for variants show them. Over 2,800 confirmed variant cases in the state of Indiana. The B117 is the most prominent with 2,300 of those. It was about 1,500 2 weeks ago. So again, that's just what's going to happen. The colored grid as far as which variant is at play will continue to colorize differently in the months ahead. That's what these respiratory viruses do as they shift around antigenically. The Michigan surge is resolved and fortunately did not come back. That was a great concern about 6 weeks ago here and had put me into just a little personal pause with total relaxation of everything that we're doing with COVID other than immunization. Same goes for northern Indiana. That had been a little nerve-wracking about a month ago. Some of the counties were going the wrong direction right around us. That has it's not resolved, but it's quieter now. A lot more yellow and blue colors on the state color map. One of the emerging topics, of course, is Pfizer was approved by the or the committee that approves immunizations with the CDC. So Pfizer can now immunize 12 to 15-year-olds. And we're doing that locally. We're giving Pfizer as we have it available at the health department. At least one of the pharmacies has Pfizer in our community. Going well. New mobile clinics in a cooperative with Warsaw Wayne Fire is emerging. And they did a small one here, a couple weeks ago, Mayor, or last week. Went well. We hope to take it out to some industry, and I believe other employers are having either hospitals or pharmacies come to them to deliver on-site vaccine. I don't know all those details. The hot topic in public health, not only here but nationwide, is vaccine hesitancy. The CDC has noted the pale yellow color of the state of Indiana compared to other states, and some counties looking a little lacking. In Kosciuszko County, not horrific, I would say, compared to our peer group if you look at the entire county, but if you go zip code by zip code, which you can do on the state's dashboard, you'll see that we have some zip codes that are not well represented with immunization rates. So the CDC is out treading soil, looking into these topics across the country. They've come to Kosciuszko County to meet with people. They may ask you what you're thinking with vaccines. Please be kind with them. Give them your real thoughts. You're building a strategy that we hope will bring some fresh thinking to us to help promote winning more people to vaccine. Vaccine's easy to get. You can go to ourshot.in.gov, or you can simply call 211. You can go to your favorite pharmacy. Walk-ups are accepted. Scheduling ahead is always appreciated, but walk-ups are okay. And my personal take, vaccines are safe and effective. It's a real opportunity in Kosciuszko County. We should just get her done. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. I know just kind of looking at that CDC map, and it shows that nationally, 39.5% of the population is fully vaccinated, and I think you mentioned it, about 33.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a little catching up to do, but I think I think we're making good progress, and I appreciate your comments about, again, getting maybe a little creative, getting these doses out to industry and being a little more mobile and taking our show on the road, and I think we'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Teresa, anything from your world?
It's just similar to the way Dr. Remington talked about it, but a little different version. The last 3 weeks have been about 60 cases a week. So far this week, we're at 25 cases, so I would say that's also looking to be right in that same range. There's 20 breakthrough cases right now. I will keep that in perspective. There's been 22,000 vaccinated, so that's a little less than 1 case per 1,000 vaccinated. So as we look at that, we'll continue to watch those numbers, and anyone who wants to see them, they're available on the Indiana dashboard. So other than that, I don't have much right now.
So that looks like that's about 0.1% of those
Yeah.
being vaccinated or having those breakthrough cases.
0.09%.
0.09. Okay.
There's a formal case definition. Teresa and I have had a dynamic discussion about this. There's a formal case definition for breakthrough cases, and you don't have to be symptomatic.
I don't think so.
Right. So we're starting to get into that discussion, which we brought forward, the nuances of a positive test now that the number of cases are dropping in an asymptomatic individual. What does that test mean?
Right.
Now, again, it's been all about the test for months. So we want to be real careful with this conversation, but it's a nuanced conversation. So yes, there are breakthrough cases. we could maybe have a certain set of lenses on, I think, some of those so-called breakthrough cases, if it's a true case or not. But I want to emphasize that these vaccines are highly effective. The breakthrough cases are very small, and it's statistically really unlikely that one of those would end up in the ICU. They are occasionally happening. They are a true symptomatic severe case that looks like it was post-vaccine, but they are, I can't quote that percentage, but it's extremely uncommon given the volume of vaccine that's been given.
Right.
So, great point, Teresa. Thanks for bringing up the breakthrough cases. Yeah. Good.
All right. Carrie, anything, final comments from a county perspective, looking back on this thing or where we're heading?
Well, I think, just trying to look back over the past year, I think that I just have appreciated this group being able to get together and discuss and continue to look for ways of how we could better serve our community here through this process. And I just want to thank the health department and the mayor and Bowen Center and everybody that's worked so diligently for us to get us to this point. So it's just good to feel like we're even a little easier and that we're able to start to slowly get back to a more normal life. The county's continue to be in full support of our health department and the vaccination program that we have going on, and look to continue that through as long as it needs to be done. So not letting off the gas on that one.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. All right. Kurt, how's things out at the testing site and with the hotline?
Yeah, again, it continues to be right around 30 or so tests per day as we shorten the hours to 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the hotline calls, now that walk-ups are possible, have dramatically dropped, so it's a handful per day, both Spanish-speaking and English-speaking. But we anticipate the state will want us to continue to provide testing through December, and we're certainly willing to do that. We'll have to leave the fairgrounds during the fair. 4-H uses that building, so the mayor has generously offered Center Lake Pavilion, so we'll be moving down there during that month, late in June through July. And as the CDC, as they're making their tours around, they spent about 2 hours with Gamal Hernandez yesterday, visited the test site, met with all the staff, and were very impressed with the way that's all operated. And they asked if they could include that in whatever publication they're going to come up with, which is kudos to Kosciuszko County and the opportunity the health department has given. So we're still keeping on.
Great. Again, Kurt, thanks for your diligence there. I know you really picked up the testing when we needed it, and thankfully it's starting to wane a little bit, but hopefully there will be no need for testing sometime soon. So thank you. All right. Questions?
Dr. Rubinson, when we first started this, I know Dan started talking about baseball innings. Are we at the bottom of the ninth now?
I'm glad you asked that.
Oh, boy. I don't know. It's just turned away from a baseball game into this ultra marathon, and I think it's one of those, how many miles can you get in until your legs fall off? I don't know how to answer that question. It's been a long haul. Wishful thinking a year ago that it was going to be this fit the curve model, which had been sent to me by the state. Oh, it's a 16-week bell-shaped curve. I was playing into that 9-inning thing until that model didn't work anymore.
We're starting to run out of pitchers.
Doggone it. Yeah, that just went on and on. And then, oh my. Yeah.
But I think we still want to see the next respiratory season.
Yeah.
I still have my eyes open.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I think the commingling with the next respiratory season in the fall and winter will be of interest to see how we think through that, what the experts from national and state sources think. And the particular application to schools, I think, is going to be tricky. We've had conversations at the health department that we are going to try to put resources, or keep our resources together to particularly come alongside educational institutions. We don't sense there's going to be a blow-up of cases as much as this gray zone of what to do. And what are the talking points, the shifting sand of thinking and guidance. So I want Teresa and the wingman of her choice to be there on the phones, to be as receptive as we've been able to be this past year to handle that. I think that's a key community asset. And so that will be there this next coming school year, at least the first semester for sure. Influenza doesn't typically ramp up until January, February, the second semester. And that, of course, clinically is indistinguishable from COVID. So we're going to have to sort that all out as clinicians. So.
And then, like in countries like India, where COVID is still ravaging the population, it's still pretty horrible there, from what I understand. Looking back, what do you think it was, or a combination of things that kept U.S. from going in that direction? Or
Well, we robustly, I wish I could remember and quote the metric I saw the other day as far as availability of vaccine per population. We are head and shoulders above what India had as a resource. So I'd have to say the 10,000-foot view is we were very fortunate to have vaccine in this country when we did, robustly available as it has been. India would have, I think, loved to have had that.
You know, I've heard that Japan's having an upswing, and also in that same story, they talked about they're just getting started on their vaccination program
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
it related to the Olympics.
That's why I'm such a big vaccine. I mean, I know there's a real battle now with those who've chosen not to be vaccinated. I don't want to make it a battle. It shouldn't be a battle. But I'll just tell you, from the bird's eye view as a public health thinker of some durability, the vaccines have really bent the curve on this. There's no question. We could dibble and dabble whether everybody post-infection, a legitimate infection, must also be immunized. I think why not? But those who are totally naive and not having availability to vaccine, this pathogen is rough. It fills ICUs, and it's nasty. Puts seasoned healthcare workers in tears. Something is impressive with this pathogen, right? We really have seen that. We're no longer as naive now in this country, either from natural means or from vaccine or both. That's all good. That's how pandemics go. Until the kindling is away from the forest floor, the fire can rage. All depends, and it kind of has whims of its own. Once the kindling is off the floor substantially, then it kind of runs out of gas, and it kind of collapses. Right?
Dan Spalding?
So, just a few questions. Would you have any statistics that show what percentage of adults in Kosciuszko are fully vaccinated?
I know that's been quoted, and I don't have that like 18 and older stat. Dan, that's a great question. I wish I had it. As I was listening to the news last night in one of the media outlets, they were quoting adult population percentage of vaccination. I go, I don't have that metric.
You know,
I did.
On the CDC website, the difference between 12 and under and 18 and under is about 2.5%. Well, no, it's about 3.2%. So if you just extrapolate that here, they obviously expanded the population by going to 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Going back to 18. It's 50% fully vaccinated in the United States greater than 18, and greater than 12 is 46.8%. So there's about a 3.2% difference.
The state's dashboard can give you a look from the aggregate at the state level, but I can't get that to come down to the county level. At least I've not seen that.
Okay. And I might be way off base. When I'm looking at these statistics, 22,000 got their first shot, another 22,000 are fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
So when that first group gets caught up on their second shot, where do you think we'll be?
Well, I think we're creeping closer and closer to 40%, you know, and there's more availability of single-dose strategy, so one and done for more people percentage-wise, and I think we'll get there. Whether we'll get to 70% immunization in this county, I don't know, but I bet you we can eventually get to, 50. Might take us a while, but we'd like to think we could get to 50.
And one more question.
Mhm.
Look ahead and tell us what it will be like when, maybe if, when, and where these booster shots will be made available.
I don't know. The last read I had on that this past week, in the last 7 days, was a little soft on seeing evidence that a booster was needed. And I can't remember what the source was that I was reading, but again, just showing great durability to the protection from the vaccine. And I think it was along the lines of cellular immunity, if I remember that article. So it wasn't just about antibody response, which is so much our focus, but the immune response is more complex than an antibody level. So cellular immunity, which is not as easily measurable, is a real thing. And it has great legs, it looks like, with either a natural infection or vaccine. So even if antibody levels wane, it doesn't mean that you're all now vulnerable again. It doesn't mean that. Time will tell. There's this clinical nuance that has to be sorted out. Okay.
Dr. Remington, I think that's a great point that I appreciate you mentioning, that potentially these boosters won't be needed. We had heard a while ago that potentially they would, and that just really underscores what we've been dealing with from day one, and that's how this public health information has guided us as it's made available.
Yeah.
And we don't know till we know what we know.
Yeah, so real-time information in science is being extremely open, and I think it sometimes becomes misunderstood as people see the shifting sands of thinking. But I'll just say that's science. Certainly that's clinical medicine. My goodness, it's always like that. So just because something is said now that seems a bit contradictory to something that was said 6 months ago, it doesn't mean something's wrong with the messenger. That's just science. And aren't we fortunate to have a very open society where you're front row seat on this discussion? Okay.
All right. Any final questions?
I kind of have one for Kurt. Yesterday I watched this news video, whatever, of some of the effects on children from this COVID pandemic, or eating disorders, possibly attributing to this whole thing. How long, I guess, maybe you can't answer, how long do you watch for emotional side effects from this? Especially children, 2 years, 5 years?
Yeah, they can. It sometimes does take a while to emerge. Other times it's rather immediate. And yeah, there can be some lasting effects, onset and or exacerbation of symptoms up to long periods of time. I mean, like the COVID babies now, because they were born and kept at home and away from other people, that's a whole new learning experience when they get socialized. They're very slow to socialize, and they're a little bit panicky when they see people. And so COVID baby syndrome is a real thing. And one of our psychiatrists had a child born during that. And she's very conscientious about how do you then socialize the child who has not had interaction with anybody except their mom and dad for months. And we're all social animals, and so having that socialization, like in school. You know, I think the Warsaw schools did an outstanding job continuing to have school open as much as they possibly can for as many people as could, because again, it's so important for children to socialize and learn in a group setting. So it can have a lot of different ramifications. And again, as I've mentioned before, one of the big one is the amount of child abuse that went on when there was no schools having eyes on the kids, no physicians having eyes on the kids, no Division of Children's Services. And it was sad. There was a lot of unfortunate circumstances during that. And we're working with those kids and those families now. And those are long-term effects.
Dan, grab the mic.
Yeah, after a full year, what's your biggest takeaway from all of this as a public employee representative? I know that's a huge pageant kind of question.
I mean, I guess the thing that I would probably say is it's amazing when you get a group of people that have a community in mind and you're working together towards an end goal, you know, that, I mean, as much as I've not liked the whole COVID thing, it's been cool to see how our communities reacted to it and rallied around the cause. And whether we're elected officials or appointed or businessmen or whatever it is, how we've kind of worked together to help try to provide leadership the best that we could. I mean, we probably can all be Monday morning quarterbacks and look at what things we might do different if we had it to do over again. But on a whole, you know, I think we played pretty middle of the road through most of this, that, you know, we tried not to do things that were, you know, forcing people to do things they didn't want to do, but yet there's things that we could encourage them to do to help with the public health, so.
Yeah, I think the thing that I look at from just the 10,000-foot view of this whole thing was not having a clue what we were facing when this started because of the uncertainty of it and continued uncertainty, although we've gained a lot of knowledge that we just spoke about that's helped narrow down a good public health response. But initially, and it was the uncertainty created very big challenge within the public health arena, but amongst our business community, obviously created a lot of anxiety and difficulty. And then just amongst our social population, our families and residents and children and, you know, just our friends, our social circles, just disrupted beyond anything I ever would have thought could have happened as people tried to react in the way they thought best for them and their families. And the difficulty with managing reality and again, in a very challenging, changing, ever-changing world, it made it difficult, I think, for people to really rally around the one right thing, because there wasn't really one right thing as we went through it. And I think people developed their own thoughts and ideas, and again, to me, all went back to the uncertainty we were facing, so people were really trying to navigate this on their own. And I think the longer we've gone with public health, hopefully that's going to get us out of this thing.
Most of the time I've done this job, it's kind of a lonely job because not too many people really care what's going on. So this year's been a bit overwhelming, having people actually interested and my things where, you know, Dr. Remington gets his ear bent once in a while over case definitions and updates on, you know, my little emails that have gone on from just usually being internal communication because we're watching what little communicable disease bumps happen here or there. And then I think of how much I fretted over one of two cases of things at times, and it's a little overwhelming. But the teamwork has been amazing because when there were things that needed to get done, it was, the whole community would come together. And when people would call in and they would go, I really don't want to make anybody sick, what do I do? And you know, yeah, we had some people who didn't care at all, but not very many. Everybody just wanted to make sure they didn't harm anybody else. And that's been good to see, and how we've got done what's happened. It's amazing.
I remember reading a history of the Yellowstone earthquake, which trapped a lot of people. I think it was back in the 40s. And as I read that horrible narrative, I remember this from the sheriff, or the response coordinator. He said it wasn't the policies and procedures so much. It was the relationships that I had. I never forgot that. And we have policies and procedures, we have playbooks. But you know, this pandemic broke through all that, and it settled in just with that emergency manager from that Yellowstone disaster said, it's about the relationships, the people you get to know. Because the whole thing is extremely dynamic. And that really impressed me with this. Our team for this outbreak was different than other outbreaks we've had, different than the one we had together. The players are different around the table than what we had during the H1N1 a decade ago. And this was just a great working group. And you just have to regularly meet. So back to my applause to the mayor for pulling me out of my office, my daily routine as a family doc, and my little internal group at the health department, to get us coming to a regular meeting point with people outside of our department, involving elected officials, key clinical players, and just have regular conversation and regular accountability to the community. That structure, I needed to be prodded into it, but it was so important. That's a strong take-home. This outbreak interfaced tremendously, because it had long legs and serious legs, right? Swamping ICUs. The emotion was high, and we have come to a point with social media's use in the population that really stirs the pot a certain way, at least in this country. And that really impressed me over the last year. The population's psyche was fascinating to me, just fascinating and challenging. I'm so glad that Kurt was part of our team. His tempered words and just your approach through this at times was really good to hear, honestly. So the team, the personalities, the relationships really impressed me. Yeah, good question.
Well, I guess for me, it's three things when I look back at it. One, running a business with 1,500 employees and 35,000 patients. I wanted to, and again, this is totally unprecedented, and so wanted to make sure we provide safety for our staff, safety for our patients, but also we had an obligation to continue to serve those patients. There were some organizations that eliminated services, and we did not. And so I think we made some right decisions. Everything didn't run smooth all the time, but it was the right thing to do as somebody who runs a large organization. Second thing, my oldest daughter's a nurse in a South Chicago hospital, and my weekly contacts with her as the surge just swamped their hospitals. And daily, each of those weeks, I'd get a different progress report. So I knew firsthand how devastating this disease was, and I tried to share that with my staff, some of which were a little skeptical, I guess. But the third thing is, as has been said here, just this teamwork, just the sense of being in a community that really cares and really wants to work together to do the right thing when we don't always know what the right thing is to do. And You just make your best decisions at the time based on the best knowledge you have and hope that it works and recorrect, change if it needs correcting. And so I appreciate the opportunity of being part of this.
You know, I just want to make one more comment about Teresa. I remember we were all called to arms that day down that 8 o'clock meeting in the basement of KCH, and Teresa got up and pretty much told us, not detailed, but pretty much told us what was going to happen and what we were going to have to expect, and there would be waves. And, you know, as much as she knew, in a very calm, seasoned manner, having been through these public health concerns, I think it was a good call to action. Like, this is really happening. This is the direction we have to head, not knowing where we were going. And I think the community folks, the emergency services people that were there, the elected officials that were there, just kind of walked out of there with that call to arm. And here she sits at our last press conference, same demeanor, hasn't really changed her message, and she's just adding to her dossier. Okay, so when the next one comes, we'll look back on this one. Now I can talk about COVID and then the H1N1 and all the other things she deals with. So purely health, public health approach was how this thing started for, I think, the elected officials. And I think that really gave us a rudder and a direction as we kept going. So Teresa, thank you so much for that. You didn't even realize how important that first speech was, but boy, it resonated with me, that's for sure. So good question, Dan, thank you. How about you?
I don't know. I think these press conferences have been pretty amazing. Great idea, good timing since the city had the technology. And I regret the baseball analogy. In doing so, I don't think they took it seriously enough, and I don't think any of us really grasped how bad it would get.
Yeah, we didn't know. We were hoping it was going to be
Yeah, a
like a
lot of hope.
9-inning game.
A lot of hope.
All right. Any final comments, Dave?
No.
Yeah, we're good. Let's move on, right? All right, well, thank you all. Okay, I think that wraps up. Thank you all, and if we need to come back, which I hope we won't, we will certainly make ourselves available. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, that, the awareness for me is this